Hey you, it's CovertGoBlue, and today we are going to be reviewing the new Alchemy cards from Phyrexia for Historic Brawl. They have been released, so I don't know about you, I didn't get pushed an update like I usually do for this update. I had to manually hit the Arena installer and relaunch it. So if you need to, go ahead and do that, but they should be on the client now on the day that you may be watching this. So yeah, I love reading new cards. It's kind of become a thing that this channel does until there's like major Magic the Gathering news or something I really want to cover. For the most part, reading cards is awesome. I love checking out new cards. So we're looking at these for Historic Brawl. That's the only format I play these in. I don't plan to play Alchemy anytime soon. I really didn't enjoy it when I did play it. However, it is moving in the right direction. I might be more inclined to try it when the specialized cards rotate, because I think the cards they've made since they kind of jumped in my opinion, it was really bad with Capenna's Alchemy. Then the historic Baldur's, sorry, why did I even say historic? It's no, it's not Modern Horizons either. It's Commander Legends, the Battle for Baldur's Gate Alchemy cards. Those, I think, jumped the shark. That was like, I can't even entertain playing those very much. But since then, Dominaria, Brothers War, pretty good Alchemy. We're going to see if this holds up and is also good Alchemy as we look for cool Historic Brawl cards. Number one, we've got Kemba's Outfitter. This is a white. When it enters the battlefield, you choose one. It's a Cat Artificer uncommon 2/1. That's pretty good. All right, choose an equipment card in your hand. It gains equip 1. Target equipment you control gains equip 1. Okay, we're doing more equipment stuff. Kemba, cats with swords, equipment things. My God, equipment just never gets there, does it? But it has to. Eventually, they print enough of these things, and it has to. In Historic Brawl, if you are actually making an equipment deck, I'm going to probably have to build one soon with Nahiri, but there's a bunch of other potential equipment commanders. You need everything you can that helps you with equipment. This helps a lot. If you have Colossal Hammer in your hand, and it becomes equip 1, you're just 1 mana and 1 other mana, plus 10. That's insane. I mean, it's a good card, given that there's equipment in your hand or on the field. Otherwise, you get a 1 mana 2/1. That's a cat. Not the worst. Definitely played in equipment decks, 100%. All right, next up is Norn's Fetchling. 1 and a white. You get a creature, Phyrexian insect, uncommon 1/1 toxic 1, and has corrupted. When it enters the battlefield, conjure a plains into your hand. If an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, you may seek a non-land card instead. Okay, so I thought at first when it said corrupted dash that it was going to tell me that we don't get the planes unless the opponent is corrupted, and I was going to say this is trash. The fact that you get the planes anyway on a toxic body makes this an important part of toxic decks and value decks, as it's, I don't know, it's not better than an ambitious farmhand in most scenarios, but if you have enough toxic going on, it's better than ambitious farmhand, because at that point you probably don't need a planes anymore and you get to seek a non-land card. You might hit something really good. This is a cool stapley card. I'll definitely play it in Elesh Norn. I'll definitely play it in the Eternal Wanderer, various other Historic Brawl decks. This goes into a bunch of things and at only the cost of an uncommon wild card. Galma, the Shaper. This is an elephant. Wow. 1 white legendary creature, elephant artificer mythic, vigilant, 3/3. Whenever this attacks, conjure a card named Tempered Steel into your hand and create a 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature token. Yes. Tempered Steel, very popular card. 1 white enchantment, artifact creatures get +2/+2. Tempered Steel decks are cool. They had a time in Standard actually when they were good. There hasn't been anything, like, people have played around with it in Historic and stuff like that, but nothing has really taken hold. This gives you a body and draws you a Tempered Steel, and when Tempered Steel is good, when you're playing a deck that's good for Tempered Steel, it's the best card in your deck and you always want to draw it. So in Historic, you've got 8 Tempered Steels now. Maybe that's a thing. This card in Historic Brawl is fine. I'm trying to think of where you would have that many colorless or just artifact creatures. And I don't think we have a critical mass for Historic Brawl yet. But it is cool that this card, if you blink it, you keep on... Yeah, or it's whenever it attacks. Okay. So you can... Yeah, you don't get anything when it enters the battlefield. Oh, that sucks. I was gonna say you could blink the hell out of this and make a big army, getting a tempered steel and a mirror every time, but no, it's when it attacks. That's a tough call, especially for a mythic. I'm gonna say no crafties on this for now. Nettling Host is 2 and a white for a 3/3 toxic 2 Phyrexian horror at rare. Has corrupted. Exile this from your graveyard. Conjure a card named Nettlecyst into your hand. Activate only if opponent has 3 or more poison counters. It's a pretty good poison little card, and Nettlecyst, of course, a very, very powerful living weapon card. Very good card. It's okay. I don't think Historic Brawl is going to have enough toxic to make this thing happen, but when you think about like Alchemy as a format, it's just getting more toxic in Alchemy. Those are things I heard before this set ever came out. Yeah, not too excited about the host in this particular case. All right, Tezzeret's Reckoning, 1 and a blue instant uncommon. Look at mommy. Hi, Tezzeret. Talk to mommy. What's wrong, Tezzeret? Anyway, exile 3 random cards from your library face down and look at them. For as long as they remain exiled, you may play one of them. It's an interesting effect. It's like an anticipate, you know, but the cards aren't in your library anymore. They're exiled. They're also random from your library. So you're not looking at top, you're not looking at bottom. It's just 3 random cards from library. I mean, is this better than any of those effects? It's different. I don't see it as particularly better, and the card you exile, of course, can be washed away, which is a staple in the format, which can be an issue. Yeah, I'm gonna say just play an Anticipate, an Impulse, an Experimental Augury instead. This card seems like kind of a niche scam, and the only way I think it's better is effects that say, like, if a card is put into exile, like the Stone Familiar, the dog, you know, who gets +1/+1 whenever something goes into exile, Lelia, things like that. But it's not in the right color identity if you're gonna play, you know, with any commanders that do that. Soul Herder, I don't know. Quicksilver Servitor is 2 and a blue for a 3/3 Phyrexian Cleric at rare with ward 2. Okay, cheap ward, nice. Whenever you cast a spell from among cards put into your hand this turn, you proliferate. Whenever you cast a spell from among cards put into your hand this turn, proliferate. It's an interesting effect, so as long as you're casting things that you just drew, you get proliferation. Seems like kind of a fun rare. Like I'll run this in Techathal. You know, I'll run this in my proliferate centric decks. Vraska, nope, can't. But yeah, if I have a proliferate deck, I'll run this in it just because you need a lot of that effect and there aren't that many printed. Surgical Metamorph is 3 and a blue for a 0/0 Phyrexian shapeshifter at rare and it's an artifact creature. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you weren't the starting player. Love that. Love that on Alchemy cards. More of that, please. You may have Surgical Metamorph enter the battlefield as a copy of any permanent on the battlefield, except it's an artifact. So it's Phyrexian Metamorph, but if you go second, it's cheap and you don't get to pay Phyrexian mana. The problem is in Historic Brawl, we already have Phyrexian Metamorph, so we're just going to play that. But it is notable that it can be a copy of any permanent, not just artifact or creature. Any permanent, so we can copy lands. This can be a ramp card. It's interesting, right? Maybe I'll try. I might play around with this. I usually have room for like 1 or 2 shapeshifters in my Yorion style decks, and this might get a chance to earn the spot. March Toward Perfection is a black for sorcery uncommon. You get a boon with when you cast your next Phyrexian creature spell. That creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter and a death touch counter on it. Wow. Then you draft a card from the spellbook. Love spellbooks. Let's go. Entomber Exarch is one of them. That's like a grave digger or it hits the hand. There's 15 in the spellbook. So draft is going to show you 3 at random and you pick the one that's best for you. Entomber is pretty good. It's good value. And then we've got Flesh Gorger. Nice. Gargantua. Nice. That's okay. Obliterator. Yes. Oh my God. Look at all these Phyrexians. Rager is fine. Revoker is interesting, has times when it's very good. Abomination, okay. Vault Scourge, sure. Scrapwork Rager, I guess. I mean, there's some stinkers in here. Archfiend of Dross, there's some winners too. The Convert, I love. The Zenith Chronicler. I mean, even if sometimes this is just another Convert, I usually want Convert on 2 pretty badly. Soulless Jailer, Diminished Returner. So here's the cool thing about March Toward Perfection. If you have Phyrexian creatures, you don't need Phyrexian creatures in your deck. Whatever you get with the March Toward Perfection is going to get that boon. It's just you put it off for a while, right? And if it gets countered or if it gets discarded from your hand, maybe you don't get that boon. But the idea is for 1 black, you're basically drawing a card. The card is a creature, and it's a little bit better than the version of the creature you put in the deck. And it might be some of these splashy mythics, and it can be tailored to your situation. I really want to try this in black decks that do not have a lot of 1-drops, that aren't very aggressive, but still have a board presence, like value-based black decks. Like, probably try this in Shieldred too. If you have a Phyrexian as your commander, there's probably not a good reason not to run March Toward Perfection. So that's really cool. So yeah, all the Phyrexian commanders that have black in their color identity, you should probably run this. And a bunch of other like the mid-rangey type decks, I would run this. It looks like a really cool card. Making room for it in some decks may not make sense, but definitely if you have a Phyrexian commander. Next up is Sheldred's Assimilator. 1 and a black for a creature, Phyrexian Horror Rare with Menace 3/1. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. If a card is exiled this way, you may conjure a duplicate of the card into the top 5 of your library at random. It's not card advantage. It's like it's like library improvement, I guess, if you really want that particular card in your top 5. It is card, it's not creature, which is kind of unique for this type of effect, and it's very cheap and has menace, so it does hit for 3. It's a pretty cool card. I like it. I think that I think of, when I think of these kind of things that like benefit off your opponent's stuff, oh, it's not even opponents necessarily, it's a graveyard. You can hit your own graveyard and put stuff back in your conjure copies back into your top 5. Ooh, that's really cool too. But I was gonna say, if you're like benefiting from your opponent's stuff, then I always like to think of that as a crime deck. But this isn't a great crime card. You know, Amy the Amazonian has the Nicole Bolas steal all your stuff, where everything in the deck steals your stuff. It's a crime deck. Anyway, the problem with this deck, this card, is it creates a duplicate of the card in the top 5. It's a may, you don't have to, but if you're targeting your opponent's graveyard, you may not be able to cast those cards. So it doesn't say you may spend mana as though or any color, which is an important thing, especially if you're in like a mono black color identity running a card like this. So let's see. Yeah, in those cases, it's a good thing you can hit your own graveyard. This card is cool, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't know that it's a huge improvement over a number of other cards in the space. And obviously you'd run a card that can gain card advantage like Tenacious Underdog and a Resilient Threat, you know, before you'd run this. So I'm not sure this card is going to make the cut in Historic Brawl. All right, we've completed 1 row of cards. That is, you know, I do these videos in 1 take. This is going to be a longer than average video, in case you can't tell already. So we've got to crack the soda, no cuts. Everybody get your soda, crack your soda, pause it if you need to. Let's go. Next up is Blightwing Whelp, 2 and a black for a 2/2 flying toxic 1 Phyrexian imp at rare. Sweet art. That is a thing of my nightmares. Was this in Stranger Things recently? 1 black. The Blightwing Whelp gains haste until end of turn. Okay. Whenever this deals combat damage to a player, seek a card with mana value equal to the number of poison counters that player has. So if you play this on 4, if you have 4 mana, 3 to play this, 1 to give it haste, you attack, you hit them, toxic 1, you give them their first poison counter, you seek a card with mana value 1. Ta-da! And then from there, each time you hit them, you seek a progressively better card. If you were able to give them other toxicness along the way, if they were getting more and more sick, you seek really good cards with this. Oddly, the main thing like I want to do with this is play it in a deck where my only 1-drops are like awesome. And I'm trying to think of how to describe something like that. Like, what is a 1-mana card? We don't have a Soul Ring in Historic Brawl, but there are cards like every deck plays, you know. But I'm not gonna like Swords to Plowshares, Thoughtseize, you know. Like, you could just make your 1-drops busted, and this is like a tutor for those. I have a variation of Yorion that I really enjoy, where I play the Mimeomancer, I think it's called, or Micromancer, whatever it is, the 4-mana tutor a thing, which is kind of what this is doing if you do it that way. The thing is cost 1 or less. I don't know, man. Seems like, what is the right toxic deck for Historic Brawl? What is the right toxic commander for Historic Brawl? Maybe we'll find it later in this set, because I don't quite know that we have it. If we do, this goes in that deck, and I doubt it goes in anything else, really. Hexagold Sledge is 2 and a red for Mirrodin equipment. And when it enters the battlefield, conjure a card named Goblin Gavalier onto the battlefield. Equipped creature gets +1/+0. Okay, and it equips for 1. So the Goblin is actually a pretty cool card that I think was in a historic, what are they called? Historic Master set. 1 red, 1/1 trample, +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it. Again, we're trying to make the equipment work. This probably does go in the equipment decks, because especially in Historic Brawl, you only get 1 of those little Gavaliers, and now you can have more of them, essentially, which is really good in Historic Brawl, because some of these specific decks need that redundancy. So yeah, I guess it goes in that deck and nothing else. It's equipment. I probably won't, until we get an equipment that really breaks the mold and makes all these equipment stuff worth it, all these will basically be like, yes, they go in the equipment deck, move on. Phyrexian Harvester I talked about in a previous video. Maybe I'll remember to link that in the description below, but just look for my like Mox Opal is coming to Arena video. I talked about this one already. I'm definitely going to craft it for a few of my powerful like Chandra decks. Magmatic Scorchwing is 3 and a red for a 4/4 flying dragon at rare. Very cool art. When this enters the battlefield, if there are no non-basic land cards in your library, Magmatic Scorchwing deals 3 damage to any target. Haha! Koth has a friend. Nice. Okay, man, is it worth it? 5 mana for a 4/4 flyer, 3 damage to any target when it ETBs, and all you run are mountains. I'm going to play it in Koth. I don't think I'm going to play it in anything else, but I think it's cool. Let's get Koth some more buddies. I really love Historic Brawl Koth. I really do. All right, Phyresis Roach is 1 green for a 1/1 uncommon toxic 1 insect. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, insects you control and insect cards in your hand, graveyard, and library perpetually gain toxic 1. Do we have enough insects? I have to like search for insects in order to know if I should play this. There's got to be like a toxic insect something deck. I'm still looking for the right commander for it. Obviously, when this card belongs in your deck, you know it. You know that you're playing insects or toxic and that you care about these things. Spawning Pod is another one that we talked about in another video. I do think that this is a really cool card, and maybe ways to like hack the deck building system so that we always like hit exactly Tyrannix Rex or something like that. So I like Spawning Pod a lot. Rothga, Bonded Engulfer, 2 green, legendary creature, Phyrexian Beast. This is a potential commander. This is a mythic rare. It's a 4/4. It has trample. When the Bonded Engulfer enters the battlefield, you get a boon with, when you cast your next creature spell, it perpetually gets +X/+X, where X is its power. Its power, so the creature you cast. It perpetually doubles the power of the next creature you cast. If you use this as a commander, it's in mono green Identity. There's a lot of cool doubling stuff. Choose your weapon, Unnatural Growth, and the new Dominus. So you can do all kinds of things. Ronus. Like, you can do all kinds of things to double up power, which is awesome. Obviously, that's something that people get excited about in green. Very green. If you play Galta, it's a 24/24. That's cool. What is something... I'm trying to think of something in mono green that is like an Elenda the Duskgrows. Like, Elenda is obviously not playable in this situation if this is your commander, but Elenda, like, when it dies, you get vampire tokens equal to its power, and it gets a +1/+1 counter every time a creature dies. So I'm looking for a way to basically cheat an effect, like something that usually comes in as like a 1/1, but then you get a benefit equal to its power. So Champion of Lambhold comes to mind, and your opponent just can't block anything. But I'd really love it if it like drew cards, or, you know, like gave every creature on the battlefield a bonus or something of that nature equal to its power. So yeah, those are the cards that you can build around with Hrothgar, Bonded Engulfer. Otherwise, it can just go in a big mono green deck. If you play the Green Dominus, you probably run this. If you play Ghalta, I'm sure you run this. It's a pretty sweet card. Innovative Metatect is a white and a blue Phyrexian Artificer rare 1/3. Whenever one or more artifact creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, seek a non-land card with mana value 2 or less. That is a very cool and very cheap effect. It doesn't trigger itself, so you need artifact creatures. You have Hope of Girpur, Ginger Brood as some good ones. I'm trying to think of an artifact creature based commander in blue-white, and maybe you do the new Golem Maker, but I haven't done that one yet. This would probably go into that deck. Thopters? If you have a deck in blue-white color identity that makes a lot of Thopters, that could be really good with this. Yeah, it's kind of a build around of its own, but it's not legendary, so it can't be your commander. So I think that this is a super niche card and probably not worth crafting unless, like, you know where this goes. All right, Eric, the False Gold Warden. We've got a white-black legendary creature, human cleric 2/2 mythic, so this can be a commander. Starting intensity, oh god, intensity, but commander players love it. So starting intensity 0. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, perpetually increase the intensity and the intensity of all cards named Eric False Gold Warden in your graveyard, hand, and library by 1. So it's really actually built for 60 card formats. I see. It might still be a good commander. Anyway, it's 3 and a white and a black. Sacrifice Eric, and target opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the intensity. Ooh. So it's like man, it's like a fireball kinda, or like a drain life on a creature, and it ticks up every time you play a creature, and it's only 2 mana. This is a really sick commander. You play this, you play a whole bunch of creatures, you just keep increasing that intensity. You get to late game states where it's like, if I get to just fireball this thing, I just get to keep using it, and then it goes to command zone, and then I get it back, and they're gonna die. So yeah, you need a lot of creatures. You also need mana, so any creatures that also fetch lands in a white-black color identity. So you're probably running like Burnished Heart in a deck like this. You're probably running Ambitious Farmhand, things that get you lands and cards along the way. Anything that ramps you, right, so that you have a lot of mana, so you can keep casting this and using the ability in the late game. You don't need a ton of that ramp effect, but you need enough so that you don't stop. You have to be able to pay your commander tax on this, is what I'm saying, because it's gonna die a lot. This card looks sweet. I actually think this will be a fun Aristocrats build. Hiding down here behind my face. Am I supposed to like move my face here? Sorry. Can I do that? I'm on the, it's so awkward, right, when I'm trying to do all this in one take. Let's see, webcam. Let's go up here for a minute. It's fine. We already read that top row. Actually, we'll go over here because we're going to have to go 1 page over and read 3 more cards. Here we go. Yep, this the pressure of one take, but I ain't gonna crack. Why didn't I just do that? Silly me. Why didn't I just do this? All right. Seething Skitter Priest. 2 and a white-black 3/3 Phyrexian Cleric uncommon toxic 1. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control and creature cards in your hand perpetually gain. When this dies, create a 1/1 Phyrexian Might with toxic 1, and this can't block. Giving all your things that ability of being a crawling chorus. That card is so nasty and limited that I think the limited players are going to look at this and be like, oh, that's nuts. And yeah, we can play this in like Aristocrats. This is really good in sacrifice type decks. Yeah, like is it Ilias Ilkor is the name of like a good sacrifice commander for black white. Tesa, this is good in Tesa, right? Because I think that this ability stacks, so when they die you get 2 things. So yeah, the sacrifice decks will love this. So that's all I have to say. Like, it goes in the sacrifice decks and the toxic decks. Next up we have Ichor Aberration. 1 and a blue black for a 3/3, good rate. Another cool art that looks a lot like Thief of Sanity, doesn't it? I bet it works like a Thief of Sanity. Let's see. Phyrexian Horror, Flying Defender. As long as Aberration's power is 7 or greater, it can attack 7 or greater. Whenever you proliferate, if this is in your graveyard or on the battlefield, it gets perpetually +1/+1. You may cast it from your graveyard this turn. All right, you play, so you need to be proliferating a good amount, but as long as this is in the system, in the graveyard or on the battlefield, it's getting bigger and bigger with each proliferation. And if you proliferate while it's in the graveyard, you can cast it from the graveyard. Seems good, but there's plenty of exile in the Magic that I play. Seems slow. I'm trying to think of, I guess the proliferate deck. I'm going to try to build Venser probably at some point, especially now that the Alchemy set is out and there might be more proliferate support. There aren't that many proliferate cards for Historic Brawl, which makes building the proliferate decks hard. This will go in that deck because there's not enough payoffs for those kind of cards yet. I'll try it there, but I'm not very, like, even there, I'm not very hyped about this card. I don't think it can solo an opponent or anything like that. Definitely not enough Thief of Sanity in this card for me. All right. Next up is Glistening Extractor, which is 2 and a blue black for an artifact at rare. It enters the battlefield with 4 oil. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 1 or more oil counters on it, seek a card with mana value equal to the number of oil counters on the extractor, then remove an oil counter. Oh, so it's an artifact for 4. It sits there for a turn, which is risky. At the beginning of your upkeep, you seek a 4. Then the next turn you seek a 3. The next turn you seek a 2. The next turn you seek a 1. It's a draw 4. It's super slow. I wonder, though, if there's a deck that wants this. I'm thinking of like Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge, various blue-black Tezzeret commanders, artifact-themed stuff. I think this is a cool card. If you don't want to craft it and your gut reaction is it's slow and stupid, then don't, because I don't think it will ever be great. But I think it could be good. It's the kind of value I want to play. Also, once again, there's kind of this thing that you can do where you might only have a certain 4 in your deck that you're going to seek with this every time, maybe like a Mystic Forge, but then you don't play any other 4s other than Extractor in this. So, I don't know. We'll see. We talked about the Lapidary before. How about Gaiox, the Brutal Carnivora? What a name. What an art. So 1 and a black and a green. This is a tiny text card. I'll blow it up as big as it gets here. At the beginning of your end step, oh, it's a 2/4. At the beginning of your end step, put an oil counter on up to 1 target creature, including itself if you want. Whenever a non-token creature you control with 1 or more oil counters on it dies, conjure X duplicates of it into exile, where X is the number of oil counters on it. Those duplicates perpetually get +X+X, then shuffle them into your library. And it's a legendary, so it can be your commander. That is kind of weird. It's whenever a non-token creature you control with oil counters. So you can put the counters on the opponent's creature, but it doesn't appear to do anything unless they trigger from having oil in some other way. And whenever a non-token creature you control with 1 or more oil counters on it dies, conjure the duplicates into exile, where X is the number of oil counters on it. And then they gain that ability, and then you shuffle. So it's super slow. Like, there's no actual card advantage here. It's, once again, like making your library better, improving your library, which is much better in a 60 card or a 40 card format than it will ever be in Historic Brawl. I mean, we could try this as a commander because kind of the payoff is you get a bunch of oil counters on something, sacrifice it to your witch's oven, and now you have 3 copies of that in your singleton deck. I don't think it's that good. I think it's pretty bad. I think it's a scam. Oh, I hate giving something that great, especially a legendary, but I think it's a scam. Scam. Moving on. It hurts to feel the scam. All right. Mephidros Slime is a 1 and a black green uncommon 3/3 Phyrexian ooze with trample. When it dies, conjure a card named Slime into your graveyard. Perpetually double the power and toughness of Slime and that card. Then shuffle them into owner's library. Wait, when this dies, you conjure a duplicate of it, and then you perpetually double the power and toughness of Slime and that card. But they're both slimes. Why couldn't it say, okay, whatever. And then shuffle them back in. Again, it's library like re-thickening, which really isn't for Historic Brawl. Bladehold Cleaver, 2 and a red-white. Artifact equipment rare for Mirrodin. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, so kind of a 4-mana 4/4. Whenever equipped creature dies, draft a card from the spellbook, and it equips for 3. I can see that this is a form of card advantage in equipment, and equipment needs that. So we will continue to add these cards to our equipment decks until our equipment decks are good. I'm not even sure that this is that great. Seems really slow to me, but in a few ways it is a 4-mana 4/4 that leaves behind like an equipment that gives +2/+2 and also gets a card. I guess we should look in the spellbook. Oh, creatures. I assumed it would be more equipment for some reason. We got this paladin thingy. We got this. We got creatures that like equipment. All these Boros equipment. Ah! Hero Bladehold's a good card. That's a pretty busted card. Nice. I love that card. Now I want to play this card. Hero of Oxid Ridge is interesting. Jorkadine. I played this in Magic Duels. Okay. Wow. Mirren Crusader is a solid card too. That is a fun card to give a sword to. Protection from black and green with double strike. This destroys artifacts. Nice. All right. As usual, like the spellbook kind of gets me back, as the idea of sneaking these cards into your deck somehow is so cool to me. Skull Piercer Gnat. Simic, 1/1 flying toxic 1 insect. When it deals combat damage to a player, a random non-land card in that player's hand perpetually gains when you cast this spell, you get a poison. Oh, gross. Oh, this card's infuriating. I love it. And it's when it deals combat damage to a player. All right. I mean, if you're trying to poison people, here's a card for you. It continues. So what are the toxic colors? I guess it's white and blue and green. We need like a Bant and black. I guess it's across all these colors. Maybe Atraxa is the poison commander, but I feel like I need a solid like 3 of those colors type commander. Or the ones who is the new one, Ishal or something, that are in the precons. Like those are really good poison commanders. We need that on Arena. Contagion Dispenser, 2 and a blue and a green. Artifact rare. When it enters the battlefield, proliferate. Okay. Whenever you proliferate during your turn, draft a card from the spellbook. It triggers once a turn. Okay. The proliferate deck continues to get cards. Izumi, I think, would be the commander for blue and green. So this would definitely go in Izumi. We get a Bloom Hulk, which proliferates. Contagion Engine. Proliferate, then proliferate again. Hype. Contagion Clasp. Nice. Evolution Sage. It's just all more proliferation. So it's just proliferating on your proliferating. And yeah, we need this redundancy in this type of deck because there aren't enough proliferate effects. Sword of Truth and Justice. Nice. All right. I love it. Yep. That will be a good addition to Izumi. All right. Oh, is this going to be our toxic commander? Vexir Ixtekix Air. Cool art again. Oh my gosh. And we've got the Bant colors, and we have a 3/4 Phyrexian Artificer rare. I'm already getting hyped. Whenever you seek 1 or more cards, create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. Golems have vigilance. Has nothing to do with toxic. That is a letdown. I really thought we were going to have our insect toxic commander for Historic Brawl. This is for Seeking. Do we have enough Seek cards? I mean, we should try it because Seek is a really good ability. It's very strong. It's very strong. So I guess we have a Seek themed commander here. That will be fun. I am going to try that. This is the commander I think I'm most hyped to play right now, because Seeking just implies value even if it doesn't do it on its own. All right, Darksteel Hydra. This is not a legendary. It is an X and an Abzan for a mythic artifact creature Hydra. More very sweet art. Indestructible. It enters the battlefield with X oil counters on it. It's a star. Its power and toughness are each equal to twice the number of oil counters on it. Whoa. I guess it had to be right because of having the Abzan colors up there. We need a really big payoff for this. So what's the end game? Whenever it enters the battlefield, conjure a card named Darksteel Ingot and a card named Darksteel Plate into your hand. When it enters the battlefield? And it's indestructible. All right, so you don't want to play this for 0 unless there's something crazy going on. So you play this for 4. It enters the battlefield with 1 oil counter on it. It's a 2/2 indestructible that draws you 2 cards. Darksteel Ingot and Darksteel Plate, which gives another creature indestructible as an equipment, and the Ingot, which is an indestructible way to make mana. And then you set up for your board wipe, where you have all these indestructible cards and the opponent doesn't. And it's kind of a cool card. It's so niche. It fits in so few decks. I'm like, I guess craft this for very specific decks. This card is sweet in Netheroi, right? Because you can mutate onto it and it's indestructible. That's sweet. Or if it's in your graveyard, it doesn't cost you, I guess it costs you no, it's power and toughness that Netheroi looks at. So it's like a free inclusion that gets you 2 cards in your Netheroi deck. So yeah, this goes in Netheroi. There might be something else. Like, do you play this in Atraxa? Maybe. It does draw you a Darksteel Ingot, and it's a good mana sink, and it's an artifact and a creature, so it's a good hit. So you could play it in Atraxa, but Atraxa doesn't need it. So yeah, I'll try it in Atraxa, and it definitely goes in Netheroi. It has some niche play. Phyrexian Scrap Yard. Land. A colorless land for our last card. Rare, tap for a colorless, 1 tap, discard a card, and conjure a card named Phyrexian Scrap Yard into your hand. Wait, that's this land. You conjure another land? You can turn any card in your hand into another colorless land? That's cool. 2 tap, sacrifice 3 lands named the Scrapyard. Conjure a card named Soul of New Phyrexia onto the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. The Soul of New Phyrexia is 6 mana for a 6/6 mythic Phyrexian avatar artifact creature with trample, and for 5 permanents you control gain indestructible, and for 5 exile it from your graveyard, and permanents you control gain indestructible. Okay, sure. That all seems magical Christmas land. I'm more interested in a land that can help save you from missing your next land drop if you don't want to. Also, discard the card, not exile it, so it does throw something into your graveyard. Maybe you can reanimate it. So there are definitely decks that want this. Olivia will play this just to discard giant monsters so that you can then reanimate them. But I'm wondering if I just run this in almost everything, just because you don't miss a land drop when you have this. That's the pitch. If I'm trying to aggressively curve out, I never want to use that ability. Therefore, I probably don't run this in any curve out creature decks. But you guys know me. I play a lot of combo. I play a lot of mid-range. I play a lot of control. I play a lot of planeswalkers. And this card can just save you in a lot of those spots where you would otherwise be missing your lands and you have cards in your hand that aren't doing anything. This might be one of my favorite cards in the group, just for that stupid little ability. All right, I have talked about all the cards now in this almost 40-minute video for the new Alchemy set coming out on Magic the Gathering Arena, available today. What are you going to craft from it? For me, I'm most excited in crafting Eric, the False Gold Warden, because I think that will be a cool kind of Aristocrats Fireball-y deck. And I'm also interested in trying out Vexier and playing Seek-themed decks. So yeah, pretty cool little set. Didn't get me all the payoffs I wanted, but plenty of cards to try out in Historic Brawl. Excited about it. Thank you for watching this video. As always, you're cool.